Welcome to another episode of our podcast, EventBuzz by Purplepass, where we talk to event planners in different industries and get their take on running an event, planning advice, marketing tips, software. You get the idea. In light of COVID-19, we have seen a dramatic rise in online events, specifically in the education sector. Not just schools, but other programs now offering online courses, workshops, and training opportunities all digitally, which is pretty cool. And today we have a special guest with us here to talk all about a very important organization, the digital programs and educational opportunities they are offering, plus giving us kind of a quick look into how they run their training and other educational events all online. So Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us. Why don't we just start by having you briefly introduce yourself as well as giving us an intro into the organization you're director for, maybe talk about the different programs and support that you guys offer, your overall mission.
Sure. So my name's Justin Beatty. I'm director of the MHAI Stanley W. DeKemper Training Institute. MHAI stands for Mental Health America of Indiana. We're a program under Mental Health America of Indiana, which is a statewide affiliate of the national organization Mental Health of America. And what our mission is to advance the education in behavioral health professionals. Like, our goal is to not duplicate educational opportunities that are already out there. It's more to act as a supplemental educational resource for different opportunities people need when they're out in the field, providing whether it's substance use support or clinical support, mental health, co-occurring, trauma, all those kind of things. Is we provide both in-person and pre-recorded educational opportunities for professionals all over all types of fields related to behavioral health.
Awesome. And how long have you guys been doing virtual events? I know this isn't new for you. At least I'm aware. At least I think I'm aware it's not new for you guys. I've seen you guys do a lot of online like trainings and workshops and stuff like that. And if you can also tell me a little bit about like the digital events you're currently offering.
Sure.
Not really events, sorry, but like your classes and whatnot.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm not gonna pick apart language.
I'm used to saying events all the time, so my brain kind of puts everything as in an event.
Yeah, so we historically have been focused on in-person training, and we had done some digital events, some pre-recorded events and stuff like that, but kind of over the last year or so, we recognized the need for starting to move to a digital format. However, a lot of our educational events are very experiential. And what I mean by that, there are a lot of small group work, a lot of networking, all these kind of things where we really felt like in-person was necessary. And so we had kind of started adapting some stuff, but some of our like major events, so you have me saying it too, major educational opportunities were done in person. However, with all the restrictions that were set in place as a result of COVID-19, we really had to take a look at whether we, for lack of better wording, whether we were going to crumble or we were going to adapt to the new way stuff was going to be done. So we took a couple months off from our trainings to kind of really look at how do we adapt these really experiential in-person, a lot of group work, dialogue. How does that transition to a digital format? So we kind of broke some stuff down, changed some things, and stuff like that. And so finally we started offering them online, and we noticed minimal negative impact from moving them digitally. We actually got resounding feedback from our participants about how they enjoyed it so much that we had found ways to make it engaging, educational, that, yes, it kind of stinks that we can't be there in person, but man, I didn't think sitting on, a digital platform for 6 hours or 4 hours, or, we have one training we do that's 5 days. So you're on the digital platform 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days in a row. And that's one of the ones we were really concerned about. And the feedback we got, like I said, is just amazing, where people are like, man, this is awesome. You guys have done a great job of making this as close to a classroom type learning. You know, we've figured out the nuances of the platform we use to make it as engaging as possible. And we've actually been able to increase the amount of educational opportunities we've provided because of having it digitally. And the biggest part of it, honestly, is we serve all of the state of Indiana. And as part of that, travel was always an issue for people because we're based in Indianapolis, which is pretty much the center of the state. And so some people had a 3-hour drive to come to one of our trainings. And then the cost of staying the night, food, you know, or anything like that. And now it's, well, let me make sure my computer's set up wherever I'm going to have it. I may even still be in my jammies to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's worked out really well. And to be honest, I pulled the numbers just because I was curious. We've trained over 525 people since May 1st. And I was surprised when I saw that amount. And that just would not have physically been possible in an in-person setting. Because one of the things is we cater to a lot of different professions. Mm-hmm. And so we're able to have multiple trainings on the same day, where if it was in person, we only have one training facility, so we couldn't do it. You know, when we did a 5-day training, we couldn't have any other trainings that week. And now this has given us the opportunity to run multiple educational events on the same day or in the same week and really, you know, increase a lot of areas of our reach.
Yeah. And I think too, like, that's as awful as this pandemic has been, it's forced a lot of people to get super creative. And like you guys, you got creative and you actually found a way to reach more people. So it kind of, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a great thing, but it has had some positive impacts on businesses, depending how you look on it. And that's awesome for you guys. And it's awesome that you're doing it online because now other people have access to it and it's a lot easier. So yeah, that's great. And I was going to ask you all about the benefits, but you totally like covered all of that. And also, I'm sure people are curious what software you guys are using to do the online training workshops.
So we looked at several platforms, and the one we decided to go with was Zoom. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the reason we decided on Zoom was because of there's a breakout room feature where you can essentially put people into small groups. And there was a lot of other functionalities that just for the type of interaction we were doing best fit our needs because of, like I said, there's multiple software out there. There's a bunch of amazing ones out there. And Zoom, just when we really got into the nuances of how we wanted to be looked at as educators, how we wanted to ensure that our participants were staying engaged, paying attention, you know, all those kind of things. That's the one that best met our specific professional needs. And
so what is the setup process for your users? How do you guys go about preparing them for transitioning from in-person to digital events, especially people that might not be comfortable with using computers at first or just not used to the idea?
So one of the things we always do on our Purplepass registration page is there's a section where you can put, like, I think it's called technically terms and agreements, you know, or something along those lines. And we put in there an explanation on how to download Zoom. You know, we put in there, like, to make sure they read it, says, hey, make sure ahead of time you've downloaded this software, that these are the minimum requirements that Zoom states you need. We appreciate you being on webcam as much as possible, you know, test your speakers and mic ahead of time. And then also, like, we put one of our team members' contact information there, that if you have any additional questions or comments, please reach out to us directly. And we expected that to be an overflow, to be honest. We were like, man, we probably shouldn't do this, but we have to. And majority of people have said that, you know, once they've got the software downloaded, if they had some issues, they looked at the frequently asked questions. And then the few that didn't have reached out to us, and we've scheduled a time and have maybe committed, honestly, 20 minutes to that time working with them to make sure it's downloaded and on there. And I mean, and it's worth it because then everything's up and running when you're doing your digital event, and you're not spending the first hour troubleshooting each of your 30 participants' computers.
Oh yeah, that's think about that. And Zoom's pretty user friendly. It is a new space though. If you're not used to it, it's probably helpful just to have someone. It's less intimidating to have someone just walk you through it. And so yeah, there's a lot of places in Purplepass where you can add little notes and stuff, and like you could even probably include like a link if you wanted to send them to a master guide or something. But yeah.
And one of the things we've done with that too is when we restructured the trainings, we wrote in a 15-minute segment at the beginning of everything to walk people through how to use the Zoom platform, like to show them how to use specific functions, how to make the screen look correctly. And I mean, it's really not that much extra time, and and the people appreciate it. It's just a good customer service tool.
Yeah, and that small amount of time that you took to kind of explain it probably saves you so much time if you were to actually like figure it out during the event. So yeah, I would definitely encourage other people using it to like, even if they think it's a simple process, to some people it's not. So like, I would just say always have at least some steps to follow. I mean, and my next question for any advice you might want to give our listeners about using Zoom for their like educational courses probably would be that, or any other, like if there's common mistakes you guys made or had to learn the hard way that you could let them know.
Few of the things around it just in general is if you have multiple like instructors or people using the platform on your organization's behalf, don't assume they know how to use it. like we dedicated training, like we created like a couple hour training opportunities for our educators and staff where we all got on Zoom together and we just showed them how to use it. It was a for real like online tutorial where we were like, okay, everybody go use this feature. We're not going to stop until everybody knows how to use it. Okay, now, your internet's showing unstable. Don't get nervous about it. Here's what you need to do. Go shut this program, do this and that. So that way, when the person was in the thick of actually doing it, they felt prepared. And so that was one of those things is that we wanted to make sure our staff was as fully prepared as possible. So we took a little bit of time to dedicate to it. And where if you look at it from outside, you're like, man, that's time you shouldn't have had to spend. But realistically, as you previously mentioned, it saved us so much time in the long run, and as part of what we do is we explain to people, hey, we understand your internet may go out. We understand you may lose this or that. Like, we're going to work with you. Just join back when you can. It's in this new digital age, we all have to be a little more understanding that technology and our internet capabilities in each of our households is out of our control. And just really kind of looking at those different kinds of things around that and just really fully as an organization or program, understanding what the limits of your capabilities are to what other people do with their systems and how they join. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I forget too, like I'm so comfortable with computers and then I'll be talking to my mom or having her do something. I'm like, why? I have to like step back because I'm like, that's not their life. Like every day, they don't know. So yeah, a little patience and getting them going. And then once you got it, it's pretty easy. I also wanted to talk to you about the virtual conferences you guys put on. I think there's one coming up in November. I believe I saw that. If you wanted to talk about that event first, introduce it, that would be cool. But mainly, these conferences tend to have panels that participants are able to interact with. So I kind of just wanted to see how that works or how you guys go about doing that. Yeah. So the conference you're talking about in November is we're working with one of our partner organizations that are under the MHAI umbrella is the Indiana Indiana Collegiate Action Network that helps do things with all the colleges here in Indiana. And that's happening in, I think it's the second week in November, is their annual conference. And so we really looked at what that would look like to have presenters, and these kind of things. And there's several options you can do around different things. But this is where we're really putting ourselves out on a limb, so to speak, and doing it all ourselves. And so we're still kind of working through some of this stuff of how the panelists are going to work and these kind of things. But overall, with that one, we're expecting probably about 125 to 150 people in attendance. And so our goal is with that is to potentially split into the breakout room sessions where it would be just like walking over into your side conference room from the main hall, and then bringing people back. And then, if you're looking at things like sponsorship or those kind of things, you can look into creating backdrops that have your sponsor's logo on them, do the introductory thing of, hey, we want to talk to you about how this next presentation is brought to you, by Purplepass, your one-stop shop for all your event needs, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Where you can really do it and customize it to what your individual needs are.
And for the breakout sessions, how does that work? Zoom, is it just like another link and then they would go to it?
No, like one of the neat things about the breakout rooms in Zoom is that when you're the main user, you can assign people to rooms, and then they get a link that pops up in the Zoom room that says you've been invited to conference room, blah, blah, blah. Or you can name it whatever you want. They click OK, and it essentially takes them into a whole nother Zoom meeting. But they don't have to log out, or any of those kind of things. It just kind of teleports them over there where they would be in a different room specific to that conversation. And then you can have a couple of them going. You can actually have several of them going on at the same time where it would just be like a conference hall. It would just be all the little breakout rooms for it.
Wow. Okay. And that's all done through Zoom. See, I've never used Zoom to that extent before, but that's pretty cool.
That was the main selling feature for us because, like I said, most of our trainings had small group work, and a lot of the other ones didn't offer us the ability to transition the way we wanted to in those situations.
Oh, that makes sense now. Yeah, that is really cool. And then the other question, I have so many. I wanted to kind of give people an inside look into how your courses, workshops function online. I know we talked about the breakout sessions. Do you guys do that for your workshops as well, or is it just smaller groups?
It really, each one's kind of unique. Our big thing with this was that we did not want them lecture style because it's mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausting to sit in front of a computer screen all day. And even more if you're just staring at a slide with a bunch of words on it. So our trainings, we really looked at how do we get people looking at each other? How do we get people having conversations? And so that's where, Zoom offers you the opportunity to do polls, and one of the nice things about doing polls where we pop up something, what do you think about this? Yes, no, maybe. And one, it lets you know people are paying attention, but two, it kind of gets their body moving, and we always, in a multiple hour training, we always take a 10-minute break roughly every hour and encourage everybody to turn off their cameras, mute their microphones, get up. And one of the things I always joke with people about, I'm like, at least switch the screen you're looking at. I know you're going to grab your phone, you're going to check emails. So at least check emails on your phone and walk around versus sitting at this computer the whole time. And so that's where at times, to be honest, in some of the trainings I've done, I've stopped at mid-training. I'm like, all right, I can see I'm losing some of you, so stand up. Everybody stand up right now. Shake your arms out, shake your legs out, because that's what we do in our in-person trainings. Because usually when you're doing an all-day training, people like to eat carbs for some reason around lunch for their lunch, and then they hit about that 1 hour after lunch window where their eyes get droopy and everything. And so we always get that blood flowing again. So we've made sure we do those same things. Just because we're not in the same room doesn't mean we can't get up, move around, joke around, have conversations, all that kind of stuff, call on people to read, ask people their opinions, and really make it engaging.
And so when people respond, or if you ask them a question, is there audio on, or are you guys using the chat feature?
Both. What we encourage is we encourage the verbal dialogue, but then also we encourage people to use the chat throughout the trainings. And what we found is really neat is when you're in person, that kind of side conversation can become overwhelming because you can hear it and, and those kind of things. But in a chat box, it's not overwhelming. And there's been some really amazing side dialogue going on in the chat box where us as trainers honestly have stopped and been like, hey, we want to point out the conversation going on in the chat box. Like, it's awesome. If you're not reading it, like, let's look at what Sammy said. Let's look at what Jarrell said, or this and that. And it's really gave us the ability to have that full continuum and everybody feel like they're engaged during the whole thing rather than just when they're called on to speak.
Oh, okay. So you guys are doing the training, but then on the side, they can do the chat and kind of give their own opinions. And then you kind of do like maybe a little debate, or it sparks a conversation.
Correct.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't think about that either. See, I mean, there is benefits to doing online with all this cool technology versus in person. I mean, you just have to weigh it out. And what was that? Go ahead.
It's interesting around that because like my wife jokes with me is because like I was adamantly against doing digital trainings. I'll be honest, I was one of the main barriers for our organization transitioning to digital trainings because I was like, oh, it's going to lose all this. People aren't going to pay attention. And now I'm one of the biggest champions in our area of digital trainings. Like it's won me over. It's just, there's been so many more bonuses and pluses to it than the few minus regressions. The positives just far outweigh the negatives. And a lot of it was me not knowing, me not being involved in very many digital trainings, me not understanding how it works. So once I kind of educated myself and did a little research, I was like, well, this will work for the time period. And now I'm like, I think this is the way of the future.
Mm-hmm. I love interaction. I miss the in person, but there are so many benefits with online learning. I mean, you can get so much more people involved. It's just a lot easier. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And for other people out there listening, I know, especially like right now, we have a lot of people reaching out to us that are educators or putting on educational programs or trying to do workshops like you guys, doing it online because obviously right now we can't do in person and this is their only option. Do you have any other tips you might want to give them or tell them? Like you said, like you were afraid of making the transition to digital. Anything you would like to say to them who are kind of unsure where to start or just unsure if it's going to work?
The biggest thing I could say is give it a try and see, but be open to adjustments. Understand that how the first couple times you deliver it, it's going to be awkward. You're going to think it didn't work out right, but talk to your participants. Listen to your end user. And that's what we did is we really talked to the people that were in our trainings and said, what did you like? What didn't you like? What worked? What didn't work? And we think we figured it out pretty good now, but there was a lot of adjustments. We stayed open-minded to understanding that there was going to be a process to this and not just an immediate end product. And so I think through being open-minded, listening, talking to the people that were actually receiving the information and what they needed rather than what we thought they need is what's helped us make these as awesome as they are now.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like a lot of people tend to forget, listen and talk to people like actually receiving your service. And they're going to be honest. And especially if you just ask, hey, what do you think of this? Straightforward, they're going to tell you, and you're going to get more feedback and more knowledge just from that conversation or maybe using a survey or whatnot than trying to guess or think your way or the highway or this is what's going to work. So I think you're right about that.
And and I agree wholeheartedly there is that like a lot of times we don't think about the populations we're serving, or our concert goers, our educational people, the people that are showing up for our events, whatever it may be, like they're the ones who are going to keep you in business. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how cool or great you think your product is if no one wants it. So listen to the people that are using the product, listen to the people that are engaging with it, and understand that things change and grow, because anybody who's still around after roughly mid to late March understands that you have to be willing to adjust. There were so many plans, so many organizations, communities had, in February of this is what we're doing this spring, this is what we're doing this summer. I mean, look at the concert industry as a whole, look at the educational industry. Like, so many in-person event situations got turned on their head. And we're in the situation now where you either adjust to what's needing to be done, or unfortunately, you may be looking for a new line of work.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get creative, make it happen. Okay, well, is there anything else you would like to add? Because I think I asked you everything I wanted to, and you just provided so much great information that I know it's going to help everyone that's been asking us what to do, like how to make online learning better, and especially engagement.
I'd really say overall, just remember to breathe as you're working through this stuff. And again, understand it's a process, that you just have to be adaptable, and you have to be willing to listen to the community, listen to the people you serve. And so, I mean, the biggest things I could say is breathe, be adaptable, and listen.
Okay. Breathe, adaptable, listen. I feel like we can use that, not even just in life.
Yeah, I agree.
I need that. I need to start telling myself that.